In this episode, I have a JVC TD W317. This is a auto reverse double cassette deck, 1995 vintage. This one features a pitch control on the playback side deck and auto reverse recording on the record deck. So here's the unit. As you can see, it's got music scan on it on both decks. It's auto reverse on both sides. The left side has got a playback. It's playback only. The right side is record and play, auto reverse recording. It's got music scan. And we notice that there's a dent right in the middle there. And we're going to figure out what caused that. It might surprise you. So this is a JVC TD W317 that was brought in for repair. And we're going to plug it in and see what it does. Apparently it doesn't do much. That's all it does. You hear a motor running. There's no display. Nothing else. I look down the top of this one. Reveals the audio board. We have some control circuitry up here for the logic control. We take a look on this one here. This is I think it's a 6 motor design on this one. It is. You have 6 motors. Capstan motor, real motor, and there'll be one to control the mechanism. So capstan motor, real motor, mechanism control, real motor, capstan. I believe that's the way the layout is on this one. We'll plug this thing in and see which motor is running. It's probably just the capstan motor that's running. And it is. It's the 2 capstan motors are running. Because there's nothing else that's powered up on this, I have to think power supply. I have to think we've got a missing voltage in the power supply. So the first place I'm going to go is I'm going to go to the regulators at the back and see if we're missing a voltage. So here's the meter. We'll ground our ground probe. And we'll just look to see whether we've got anything on these regulator transistors. 11 volts, 17 volts, so that one's working. The next one over here, 0, 17 volts, and minus 11. Okay, that doesn't look good. 0, minus 18, 0. So I think our negative supply is missing. That's why this unit is not working. So we'll check our fusible resistors here for power. 17, 12, 17, that's a fusible resistor there. Minus 18, so that one's not popped. And I'm basically just looking to see if any of these resistors are 0 on one side. See, this is going to be one of the regulators here, and we've got minus 18 volts. And this is probably the 12 volt, negative 12 volt regulator. It's got 0 volts on the emitter, but the base is also at like 0. So that transistor is in cutoff. So I don't know what this one here does. I don't have a manual for this thing, so I'm just kind of looking at the circuitry to see if I can figure out what is what in here. First thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take the board out so that I can actually measure or take the base off it, I guess, if I can, so I can get at this area of the board and see what's going on. Okay, when I'm looking down at the board here, some of these 2 transistors, these are the regulator transistors, they're both driven off of from this IC here. So looking at the connections here, and some of them look kind of questionable, so I'm going to resolder these connections here and see whether we have any difference in the operation. just check something here. Oh, my 5 volts has come back. High voltage was 0 before, and now it's come back. I wonder if this thing will turn on. Oh. This thing just turned on. Isn't that bizarre? Was this a bad connection that I just fixed? I think so, because I just tapped it and it just went out. We have a bad connection here. As you can see, this thing is on. And now it's off. But the problem is not back where I thought it was. The problem is actually on this board, because watch what happens when I flex this board. We have a problem on this board. So let me put the back on this thing and we'll find the problem on here. That's the reason we're losing a voltage is it's obviously controlled through this board, and when the connection goes open, it's causing the regulators to shut down. I spy with my little eye a bad connection right there. This whole IC should be resoldered. So I'm gonna do that. Let's just get the iron out here, and we'll fix this problem once and for all, and this tape deck will probably work again. If I can see what I'm doing here with the camera and stuff in the way, but that one there's definitely bad, as is that one. Just gonna turn it around the other way so that it makes it just a little easier for me to see what I'm doing. Turn the unit around, now I can see this side, because the other side was covered up by the ledge from where I was sitting, right? So I can see this side. Get my magnifiers on here and go to town on this IC. Oops. I'm going to give this board a good look over when I'm done here too, to see if there's any other ones that look like they're suspect. Okay, that IC is resoldered. Okay, the moment of truth. Power. Will it turn on? Yes. It turns on. Will it play a tape? I should note at this time that the front display is not working correctly, so don't worry about that. We're going to deal with that. I just want to see if the unit will actually play before I get into anything further on this one. We still have a connection problem here. See this? So I have to take another look at this, but hey, we're further ahead than we were before because this thing wasn't turning on at all. One thing I just noticed is that these ground screws are really loose. So let's make sure it's not just a grounding problem. Could be that too, right? Power on. No, still does it when I flex it. So I'm gonna take these screws out and pull the board so that I can actually see. I think I can pull the board on this thing. should be able to see I want to look at the FL display where it's soldered on, which is underneath the lip here. So I think I might be able to pull the board by just undoing those 2 screws and unplugging it from the tape transport, and it, I think, should pull out. Of course, the reason why those screws were loose is I have a feeling that this unit was serviced by somebody else and they just stuck it together after they gave up on it. Yeah, see, there are probably some connections on the FL display here that are bad. Oh yes, there's some connections along here. So let me fix those up. I'm sure there's probably more too. This is not a great design, because with these big holes in the board here, this is going to be really quite fragile, this area of the board here. Right? Because, you know, when you cut away a big portion of the board, you're creating a weak area here, right, around it. So I'm not a big fan of when they do stuff like that. Oops, but I'll just resolder that entire front display, the FL display, because when I was flexing the board, digits were cutting in and out. And I can certainly see, like this one here was bad. So we'll go over all these pins on the front display. Now you might wonder, why would they cut big holes like that in the board to begin with? Well, the reason they do it is somewhere else in there, there's going to be a very small circuit board, like one of the ones that's used. It's an interconnect, like next to my left hand there, you can see a little board that they've needed a little circuit board for mounting a switch or a knob or a control or something on, and rather than make a dedicated board, they just use unused real estate from one of the main boards and they punch it out. The problem with this type of design, and this has been going on for years, is you've created a really weak spot now. You've got a high stress area of the board where, you know, you've removed lateral support, and quite often you'll get a crack there, and that's what I'm going to find on this. I'm letting the cat out of the bag, but there's a crack on this board. I resoldered the IC and resolder the fluorescent display, but it's still not going to work, and I'm going to go back and look at it and find that there's actually a crack. And I think what happened is this machine with bad connections started going intermittent, and someone just got pissed off and they slammed their hand down, and that's where that dent was on the top, because the break is right below where that dent in the top panel was, on the top cabinet. A few more connections on here that I've spotted that are bad. On these connectors that connect to the deck itself, and probably the other ones on this side. One side's bad, the other one probably will be too, and yeah, these ones don't look too bad, but I'm going to resolder it anyway. I think this unit's been dropped. I'm looking at this mechanism here and it looks like it's bent. It looks like the deck is pushed back. We'll compare it to the other side. I think this thing's been dropped. I really think this thing's been dropped. I'll tell you what makes me think that. See, the tape goes in fine on this deck here. I go to put the tape in on this deck over here, and it won't close. I get the sneaking suspicion that this thing has been dropped. What do you think? Look at the spindle on this side compared to this side. Look at the spindle. I think this thing's been dropped. I thought I was going to get an easy one here. Not so easy, but we'll take that mechanism out and see whether I can make it work. Maybe it's just out of position. I'll pull the board out here again. I see what this is. The board lifts out quite easy. Right. Yeah, it'll come out as far as that. Also, I've noticed that the tape counters aren't lighting up on here. Like when I had it powered up. The tape display is not lighting up. So, oh yeah, see, we got a cracked board a bit. Bet you there's a crack in the board here. Still, see there, the numbers are starting to glow now. Yeah, this thing's been dropped. Well, maybe not dropped. I think more accurately what happened is it started to go into a bit and then somebody slammed their fist down on it and buggered it up, and then maybe it went to another shop and he tried taking it all apart, because again, the screws that hold the board down to the chassis of the to the actual decks themselves were not even tight. I think someone's had this deck that I'm removing. I think someone's had this deck out, and when they gave up on it, they just threw it back together and didn't put it in properly, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the deck and then reseat it, and that deck's going to be fine. So I think that somebody was in there. And speaking of the little boards, you see down here by my finger there, those little boards with the jumpers, I think those are probably the part of the cutouts that were taken off that main board. Those little circuit boards there. Move the head. So I don't know whether it's bent or whether it just wasn't sitting in the deck properly. There looks like it looks like there's a bit of a bend to the metal here on this bracket. It looks like it's kind of twisted. Of course, my big concern with this thing now is if it's been dropped, is if the mechanism is bent, how is that going to affect the alignment, like the head and stuff? That's what the concern I've got now. It might be that it just was not sitting back in the chassis right. Let's see if I'll drop that in there, whether that's going to work any better. Because it might have been just that it was out of position. We'll see if I can get the deck working. Then I'll worry more about the counter display and stuff. I'm not going to worry about the crack on the board until I know that the actual mechanism itself is going to be workable. Let's see if it works now. Okay, I've got the mechanism back in. Well, that's closing a little better. Okay. Oh, that doesn't sound good. It's almost like something sticky on my tape. Ah, jeez, it's got oil on it. Somebody sprayed oil into this thing. Wonderful. It's fluggered up my tape. Look at the tape. Look at this. Look at the residue on my tape. Damn it! Somebody sprayed oil into the stupid thing. Oh boy. The VU meter's not working. What else is wrong with this thing? And if I press down on here, I'll get my display coming back on, sort of. There we go. Oh. So now the display's working. We have a connection still in here somewhere. It can be right in this area here. Well, I guess I'm getting some sound. See if we can get this display working again. Yeah, something was on there, got on my tape. Messed up the beginning of my tape there. So if I turn it on with the board out to try and localize where that crack is, if I'm pressing right in about this area here, it's right in here where the display comes back to life. Right there, I believe. Right in here. I have to take a close look in that area of the board. See if I can see any fractures. I'm sure it's going to be a crack on the board. Maybe around some of these big cutouts. Oh, there it is. There's a crack right here. It goes all the way across the board. Right where my finger is. Take a closer look at this, guys. A crack, where did I say it was? Right in here. I can see it with my magnifier. There's a crack right. Goes right across all these traces here. Looks like it's across those ones and right across here. So let's just see. I don't see any more over here. Definitely there. So I guess what I'm going to try and do is I'm just going to clean this up here and see if I can bridge over it. So I'm going to just scrape the insulation off of the board right where this damaged area is, which is right here. And we'll try and flow some solder across here. Yes, I know my camera framing isn't perfect here. You don't have to tell me about it, okay? I can't see the monitor. When I'm shooting this, I can't see the camera monitor or the remote display when I'm wearing the magnifier headband. I have to actually remove it because I can only see about 2 inches in front of me. I've got the magnification power up quite high on this, so even if I were to look up at the monitor, I'd have to take the headband off to actually see it because it's going to be out of focus. Anyway, I think you guys get the idea. I'm just scraping the solder mask off here so that I can bridge over it and hopefully get the board up and running. But you can see how close I am. With these magnifiers, I have to be really close to see what I'm doing. But it brings everything right up so I can see every little defect. Now I'm just cleaning up the board a bit with some isopropyl alcohol just so that I can get the old solder mask out of there. And the next step is we're going to put some liquid flux that'll help the solder flow a little better and fix up the hairline fracture on the board. As you can see, the damage is exactly where I predicted it was going to be before I even looked at it. Just this idea of cutting out sections of boards to reuse the little pieces for other things is just a dumb design, and it caused lots of problems. So rosin's put on there to help the solder flow better. I'm going to use my very fine, what is this? This is like 0.5 millimeter, and my fine tip, and hopefully I'll be able to get all these connections repaired. I do believe I fixed the problem on the board. Yippee-yi-yay. I think we may have this problem solved. So let's put the board back in and see whether I have made any progress, but as you can see, the display is now working. I got to be careful though, because I don't want to break those connections again. It wasn't severed completely, but it was a crack. So we'll check out deck number 1. So I see my counter display is not perfect. I'm missing a segment there. Reverse.
There's that old alarm against them.
Yep, that works. I think that shit. It's the it's this deck. It's the reverse. Oh, there's oil on this thing. Some people are so stupid. You know, somebody sprayed WD-40 in this freaking deck. Fucking idiots. I can't believe people are so stupid. You know, it's like, yeah, it smells like WD-40. It's like, people are stupid. I'm gonna have to go over this board again a bit here. I can see some of my segments aren't lighting up, but might help if I push that all the way down. Yeah, my tape's buggered up. It's this deck that's doing it. You can see, I'll have to pull it forward past that section. Okay, we're making progress. I'm going to clean this thing before I do anything more on it. See if I can get that bloody oil out of there. Stupid idiot. Anybody that gets in here, you can see it even on here, right? And get in there with WD-40 or any type of cleaner. You don't spray your tape deck down with cleaner, with oil-based cleaner. It's like this guy that used to live up the street from me back in the early 80s when I was learning VCRs. He used to spray WD-40 in his RCA VCR and then wonder why it didn't work. Gotta clean the bloody oil out of the transport here. Now I'm condensing this down, but I spent about 20 minutes in here cleaning out all the residue from the head and the caps and the pinch rollers. I mean, it was just disgusting. Some people, I tell you, they have no clue. And it just makes a real mess. And that cat you hear in the background, he's just kind of ticked off that I won't let him into the workshop with me, so he's sitting at the door meowing. And even though it might sound like a Siamese cat, it actually isn't a Siamese cat, but he's sure vocal. See. They did it to both decks too. You can see oil in the stupid thing. Yeah, some people just say it's just. As you can see what come out of that. Pretty disgusting what people do to tape decks and VCRs. Of course, just chew up my tape. Okay, what the hell's happening now? I've got no sound. I got display on the meter, but no audio. What's wrong with this thing now? Now, I'm convinced on this unit that we have a muting problem. And it looks like IC 702 right here controls the mute line. Right, which would be off of, what is it here? It looks like it would be off of pin number 7. IC 702. Where is IC 702? I'm sure that's on this board here. Muting comes in off of this line down here. Right, and these all go together on this bottom one here, which comes up to the, where it breaks the page. It comes up here, mute. All these ones come in together. See the meter line and everything. See, we know we got signal playing back because the meters move. I just don't have any sound. So I think it's stuck in mute. And it all feeds in through this line here, which should come up on the next page, which is, I believe, the schematic here. Because we're looking at the back side. This is the IC right? This is IC 701, and I think this is the other back side of 701 if I'm not mistaken. This is the line here, and it comes up, and here's our mute here. So it's fed off of IC 702. So let's find IC 702, and this is where it selects A play, B play, and whether you're in search and so forth. So I think this IC triggers the muting, and if we look at how this is connected, the muting is controlled through this one over here, not this one. So I'm going to look around here and see if I see any more fractures anywhere in here that could be causing this IC to be stuck in the mute, because it was working. When the board was cracked here, I had sound, but I just didn't have a display, and when I fixed this area and got the display back, I then lost my sound. Okay, what I've discovered here is there was another crack right that extended right from the edge of this cutout over to pin 30. I don't know if you can see it or not if I flip the board over, but there's another hairline fracture. You can see it right there on the edge of this here. So that may be, that's on the mute line. So I've just jumpered it. That comes down here, then it crosses over here and ends up on this diode. So, okay, finally after some more close inspection of the board and bridging over a connection that was damaged, let's try it one more time here. Got my sound back. Sound on the meter. Change our reverse mode here. Let's hit the auto reverse key. That works. Let's try the other deck, and then we'll try a recording on this thing and see how this thing works. So there's forward direction. That works. Reverse direction. We'll just do a recording on here. This was recorded on DBX at this point, so I'm just going to record over top of it. Okay. Record. I guess I hit pause and then record. Okay, there we go. Now I can set my levels here, and I'm in the reverse direction. Let's find a track. Good enough. So I'll do track number 250. We'll do it in Dolby C. And there we go. We'll try this again. I'm recording in the reverse direction now. We'll see how this records. I've rewound the tape. Let's see how this sounds. That's playing off tape, not off the player. Sounds pretty darn good. I would say that this is a success. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, considering the damage that was done to this thing. As you can see, if I bring the camera around here, if you guys can see it or not, all that damage was done, and there was quite a bit. Right, there was quite a bit. There was quite a bit of damage. There was all this damage down here, but there was also more. There was also more traces broken right in here. So. As I said before, I really think that when they have these big holes in the board like this, I don't know what the hell the manufacturers are trying to accomplish other than maybe to make a weak place so that it's going to break. Because that, of course, creates a very high stress area on this part of the board. I spent a lot more time fixing this deck than I really should have. I mean, there was so many different problems with it. Wouldn't turn on at first, but that was all related to this cracked board. And then this mechanism over here, this deck, of course, I had to take it out because it had actually popped out. The base where it attaches in, it fits into a groove. It's held in place by 2 screws, but the bottom fits into a groove and it had popped out. So I had to take that out to fix that. I spent a lot more time, I think, on this unit than I probably should have for what I'm going to make on it. So guys, watch the video because I need to make some money on this, eh? This was a really complex repair that I was able to get going, and you know, it took a lot of time to troubleshoot this. It's a nice deck, but I say that was one of the weaknesses, is the way they have this great big little board up here with all these little cutouts. Okay, the unit's back together again. I'm just doing one final test. I've made another test recording on here. Let's just play it back on the playback deck on this side. Just want to show that this one does have a pitch control that controls the playback speed. It doesn't do anything to this deck, but the playback deck, it will control the speed. Right? So it does have a playback control. If I change directions on here, music scan, for example, if I hit the music scan, it'll find the beginning of the track and start playing it, which is kind of a cool feature. And I think it works the same on this deck. It's got a music scan on it too, so if I put this one in and start playing it in the forward direction, music scan, and there it'll start playing that track over again. Just checking to make sure, yep, fast forward works, rewind works, everything appears to be working properly on this deck now. Records and plays, fast forwards, rewinds, and the search works. So I'm going to have to get a new tape because this tape has kind of been, this tape has seen better days. This tape is 20 odd years old. I forget how long I've had this tape. It was an old tape that I've had kicking around, and it's at least 20 years old. It's not even in the right box. Anyway, I'll have to get a new tape at some point. It's just trying to find high bias tapes these days is like, maybe find some on eBay. You can still get standard, like normal tape, but the high bias tape is a little bit harder to come by. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next one real soon. I got a couple more things I just picked up. I picked up an old, well, I'll show you guys. This is just a little something you might see tomorrow. This is kind of something that you don't know if you guys have ever seen one of these things before. It's a Spark-O-Matic. And, well, it's a cassette adapter that lets you play cassette tapes on an 8-track player. And if you wonder who's got an 8-track player, well, I found this beast at the side of the road. So we're going to be taking a look at this 8-track player, and we'll play some cassettes in an 8-track player. I have an 8-track recorder as well, so that's going to work out well because I'm going to overhaul my 8-track recorder, do some recordings on it, and we'll play around with this thing a bit. So say I picked this up complete with an old vintage Philips console stereo, which I will be taking a look at on a future video. But I thought that was kind of cool, old retro stuff. You don't see much of this anymore. What's cool about this is, you see, it picks up power. These contacts in the end here, it actually picks up power from the contacts at the back of the 8-track deck that is normally used to advance to step the head. That picks up power to run the preamp for this, because it basically picks up the signal off of a cassette tape and applies it to another transfer head, which transfers the audio from a cassette onto the 8-track pickup head, and the capstan turning spins this rubber roller, which turns the capstan shaft here and reduces the speed. These were kind of cool. These were around for back in the days when people had cars that came with a pre-installed 8-track player, And then, of course, cassettes came out, so they came out with this adapter. We're going to be playing around with this on a future video. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I say this was a much more involved than I really ever intended it to be. If you want to support my channels, you can do it either through PayPal at that address you see on the sign in the background there, or you can do it through Patreon on the link on the screen that you see. And either way, anything you can kick my way really helps the channel. It helps me go out and purchase new products, or I should say, well, new products, because I buy some new stuff that I review, but I also use it to buy some of these old antiques that I'm servicing. And everything that all donations I get rolled right back into the channel. Let me buy new cool things to show off to you guys. We'll catch you in the next one real soon. Bye for now.